Thank you, Representative Acom. Welcome back to the committee. Representative Pryor, will you move House File 2398 before the committee today?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Pryor. And with that, Representative Acom has an A2 amendment. Will you please move that as well?
So moved.
Thank you. Representative Acom, would you like to describe the A2 amendment?
Yes, please. Thank you, Madam Chair and members. So the A2 makes a couple of technical changes and then allows the Department of Health to identify training materials for schools rather than producing them themselves.
Thank you, Representative Acom. With that, members, are there any questions on the A2 amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The A2 amendment's adopted. Representative Pryor, proceed. Representative Acom, proceed.
We both represent parts of Minnetonka, so it's easy to get us confused. Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I appreciate the opportunity to present House File 2398 today. It's a bill that provides naloxone to schools. So here's what we know. Last year, the Centers for Disease Control reported the most overdose deaths ever recorded in a single year in the United States. In Minnesota, we saw a 49% increase in fatal overdoses in teens. 1 in 7 young adults has a substance use disorder. An overdose is the #1 cause of death for young people in the United States. There is no denying it. We need to act with urgency to address this important issue. Thankfully, we have an important tool to help in this fight. Naloxone is a relatively inexpensive medication that is simple to administer. It's safe, and most importantly, it saves lives. Naloxone reverses the effects of opioids and stops an overdose. Given the statistics I just referenced about use among our young people, we need to make sure that naloxone is widely available in order to save lives. Having it accessible in schools is important to ensure that no student dies of an overdose. This bill has evolved over several years and was previously carried in the House by our former colleague, Dr. Kelly Morrison, who is now serving in that other body. Dr. Morrison developed this bill with her constituent, who's here with me today, Colleen Ronnie, who herself lost a son to overdose. Ms. Ronnie has made educating kids about opioids and preventing overdose her life's mission. She founded Change the Outcome, a nonprofit that aims to combat the substance use and overdose epidemic through education initiatives for young people. She's been in many schools across our state, reaching thousands of young people. This bill has been worked on collaboratively with advocates, MDE, MDH, school nurses, superintendents, and school boards. I am proud to join the effort this year with the hope that with your help, we can get this bill across the line. So at that, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Ronnie, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Go ahead and state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you. My name is Colleen Ronnie. I am the founder and executive director of Change the Outcome. As Representative Acom mentioned, I'm also a parent who has lost a child to the opioid epidemic. Our son Luke was 20. I'm sorry, I'm tired. I don't cry all the time. But he was 20 years old when he experienced an overdose in our home in 2016. His substance use disorder began in high school when he was prescribed opioids for pain after his wisdom teeth were removed. I've spent the years since then educating young people about the opioid epidemic and middle and high school students and educators across the state with an extraordinary team of young people in recovery and young people who have been impacted by a loved one's opioid use. We've met with more than 70,000 students in the last 6 years. Every week, we're seeing firsthand the precarious situation that almost every high school is facing because of the absence of this simple life-saving tool. The opioid epidemic has expanded and changed in many ways over the past decade. Few of those changes have been good. This public health crisis is growing worse every day due to the inclusion of fentanyl in the drug supply, and it is taking a toll on young people at greater and faster rates than ever before. It's a common misperception among young people that pills are a safer option when trying substances. 6 months ago, the DEA warned the public that 4 out of 10 pills had a potentially lethal amount of fentanyl in them. Last month, that number jumped to 6 out of 10 pills have a potentially lethal amount. 53% of 25,000 kids that we presented to in the last 2 years have no idea that press pills even exist. They don't even know that they're a thing. So they can't possibly know that they're a danger. I think most of us have seen in the news with increasing and alarming frequency the incidents across the country involving high schools where a student overdoses, some fatally. In some cases, it's educators. Sadly, overdoses are occurring in middle and high schools in Minnesota. Despite that, we've not taken the necessary steps to respond in a way that could prevent a future tragic fatality. Our schools are not required to carry this life-saving tool, despite the fact that we are in the midst of a fentanyl crisis and overdoses are the leading cause of death for young people. We do not have a national epidemic of heart attacks, yet we require all public schools in Minnesota to have an operational AED on school grounds at all times. Additionally, all schools are required to train employees with appropriate life-saving skills like CPR and the use of an AED. The average cost of an AED is $2,000. The average cost of this is $23. It's really cheap. If you lost a child to an overdose, you would know it's not only reckless, but heartless to continue to deny the critical need for this practical solution in our schools. Schools are gathering places, and in many towns, they are the heart of the community where tens of thousands of people spend a majority of their day. I've talked to hundreds of educators who have expressed a genuine fear that a student will overdose in their school or a classroom and they will be powerless to help. Several have asked how they can get their schools to adopt a naloxone policy. Many have privately asked us to leave them with naloxone, even though they know that if they ever had to use it, they would risk losing their jobs. There are more than 330 school districts in Minnesota, and fewer than 30 have a naloxone policy. We've been lucky so far in terms of not losing a young person to an overdose in one of our schools, but our luck will run out if we don't act now and pass this legislation this year. Thank you for an opportunity to
Thank
talk
you.
about it.
And I am so sorry for your loss. Next up, we have Tucker Robinson.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Committee. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to testify today. My name is Tucker Robinson, and I'm a lead program facilitator at Change the Outcome. In this role, I've been afforded the opportunity to speak in numerous high schools across Minnesota about the opiate epidemic. However, I'm not just here to testify as a member of the Change the Outcome team. I'm also here to testify as a person in recovery. As of November of 2022, I had 5 years in recovery from opioid use disorder and substance use disorder. Given the nature of the bill that we're discussing, I'd like to offer some of my history of use and some trends in teenage drug use that I've noticed have changed, as well as ones that have stayed consistent. I started using drugs when I was 13 years old. Initially, it was just alcohol and smoking marijuana. I was struggling with my mental health and issues at home at the time and felt like they provided me an escape. By the time I was 16, I had graduated to experimenting with several different substances, mostly pills like Adderall, Xanax, and Percocet. Over the next 2 years, much of my use took place on my high school campus. Teens today are still suffering from substance use disorder, opioid use disorder, and other co-occurring disorders. The teens that aren't dealing with these issues are likely to still experiment with drugs. Whether this is because they desire an escape, outlet, or they're just watching their friends do it and believe it to be safe, make no mistake, this is happening, and it's happening on school grounds. As for the things that have changed, the biggest one is the risk associated with using and experimenting with drugs. 10 years ago, while there was a risk associated with using substances, it wasn't nearly as high as it is currently. Fentanyl being cut into street drugs and pressed pills hadn't become the wildly abundant issue that it is today. When I purchased a pill, I knew what I was getting. Now pills and substances are marketed and sold as one thing, while they are almost always laced, cut, or just entirely fentanyl. Whether people and teens realize it or not, the drugs they are buying usually contain fentanyl, and when they ingest these quote-unquote drugs, it's much more likely to cause an overdose. And because of this, these overdoses are happening everywhere. Workplaces, parking lots, malls, our homes, even in our schools. As I've said, I've had the pleasure of speaking in several high schools across Minnesota over the last 6 months. When I think of these experiences, there's one in particular that stands out. About 3 months ago, we were speaking at a school in the greater Twin Cities area. During our presentation, a student raised his hand and announced in front of the class and to us that he couldn't stop using drugs. That student was inconsolable. When the teacher and I went to step out into the hallway with him, we learned that he had left during the presentation to go to the bathroom to drink the better portion of a bottle of vodka. While we were able to get him to a safe place, I was left thinking about how it could have been just as easy for that student to go to the bathroom and take some pill rather than drink vodka and never have left that bathroom again because the school we were at didn't have Narcan on hand. It is essential that this bill be passed and Narcan be mandated at schools across the country. There's no telling how many teen lives that it could potentially save. Personally, Narcan has both saved my life and the lives of many people that I know. Make no mistake, teens today are still suffering from substance use disorder. If they're not suffering from substance use disorder, they're likely to still experiment with drugs. Those drugs have a good chance of containing fentanyl in them, whether they know it or not, and that has a much higher chance of causing overdose. To mandate Narcan in schools would be a step in the right direction in both addressing the opiate epidemic and saving teen lives. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony and congratulations on 5 years. Members, are there questions or comments at the table? Representative Bennett.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Acom, for carrying this. I think this is very important. I'm sorry for the death of your son, and congratulations on your being sober, and I have a nephew who's working through that. This is such a huge issue in Albert Lee. There was recently opened a naloxone access site through a different foundation, I think similar to yours, started with a son of somebody passing away, and they train people and give them naloxone. So I have a question. I fully support this, but just have a question on how this works. The nasal naloxone, is that free, or is that generically available, or does one have to purchase the Narcan brand?
Whoever would like to answer.
This is Colleen Ronnie. Yes, it is generic now. It does not have to be the generic, the brand Narcan.
That,
Thank you. Representative Bennett?
thanks, Madam Chair, and that is awesome, because obviously the cost is huge, and I remember with, EpiPens, when those were mandated for schools and suddenly the cost went up, it's not a good thing, so good to hear that. The other question, or I guess just a comment to consider for your bill now or in the future, to put permissive for schools to become a naloxone access site, so that these people are going to be trained. Now, I know the access site in Albert Lee, by the way, we had a young man named, I just want to honor him, Manny Chavez, who passed away, 16 years old last year in Albert Lee from a fentanyl overdose. Very sad. He was part of our church youth group. I didn't want to forget to mention his name. But I know ours is the injectable version in Albert Lee, but perhaps that training can take place as an access site for parents and people like that to come, get trained, and then have that in their home. Being we're starting this with schools, it seems like it might be a natural place to be an access site for future. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Bennett. And I forgot we have a public testifier that I forgot to call up. So why don't we make some room and go ahead and state your name for the record and proceed.
Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Kim Lewis, and I'm with the Minnesota School Boards Association. And before I begin my remarks, I just want to again tell Colleen how sorry I am for her loss, and we've been testifying together for a couple of years. Thank you for allowing me time to address House File 2398. Representative Acom and I have had conversations regarding the bill, as well as Senator Morrison, and I look forward to continuing those. I just want to clarify that MSBA is not against this bill, but rather we want to ensure this bill, if passed, would be executed with fidelity. We do appreciate the funding that's attached with the bill as well. First, I'd like to share that MSBA has recently collaborated with the Minnesota Department of Health to create an MSBA MASA model policy. It's model policy number 516.5 to assist schools that may have or are considering overdose medication availability. MSBA has distributed that model policy to all of our members, all 331 school boards across Minnesota, within the last couple of weeks. MSBA's model policy offers guidance and support for Minnesota schools that choose to obtain, administer, and store naloxone, a medication designed to help to reverse the effects of an opioid overdose in minutes. And the Minnesota Department of Health has just finalized a web-based naloxone school toolkit, which was launched Monday. It is an extensive resource that includes valuable information on opioid overdose, emergency response procedures in school settings, sample protocols and procedures, naloxone information, resources for education and staff training, resources for staff, student, parent prevention, and recovery and referral resources. House File 2398 requires the person having control of the school building must ensure that at least one staff member trained on how and when to administer nasal naloxone is on site when the school building is open to students, staff, or the public, including during before school, after school, or weekend activities. Outside of the school day, our buildings are very often used by community members and community organizations that school districts have no meaningful relationship with. There are community baseball teams, ball teams, Boy Scouts, and churches, for example, that use our buildings at night and on the weekends. This presents a problem in executing the expectations of the bill. Our concern is the bill's requirement presents an almost impossible standard for our schools because it requires at least one staff person on site when a school building is open to students, staff, or public. Districts would need to hire and train individuals for outside the regular school day. Another approach to achieving the goal of the bill would be to have every school adopt and implement a written overdose or Narcan plan, which would include the identification of a school nurse or designated individuals at each school site who are on duty during the regular school day and can administer or assist with the administration of the drug or medication to counteract the overdose. The plan should include training on the medications for employees the district identifies and the important ways to recognize signs and symptoms of an overdose and appropriate steps to respond to it. The plan could also include what happens outside of the regular school day, before classes begin in the morning and after school and weekends, and reflect local decision about how to meet the requirements of the bill. Our model policy does include specific outlines for a district planning team who would oversee the general development and operations related to the use of an opioid antagonist. We believe again that a local plan for during the regular school day is best. Again, outside of the school day, some schools may have an individual who is in the building at all times, but many don't. School districts could develop a plan that may include workable options such as providing instructions to the individual or groups when activities are scheduled, or the medication could be placed in an AED station if there is one. It's our understanding that there is no state requirement for schools to have an AED. I think there are ways we can certainly accomplish the goal, but to do so in a way that is workable in districts and school buildings. By putting together a locally developed action plan, districts would be in a much better place to implement and control the intended purpose of protecting students from overdose of narcotics. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you so much. With that, we'll go back to our list. Representative Sensor-Mura.
Thank you. I will keep my comments brief. I've had some conversations with Representative Acom about this bill. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative Acom, for bringing the bill. Thank you so much for sharing your story, and I'm so sorry for your loss, and thank you for doing this amazing work. I've had family members who have dealt with opioid addiction, got into it as young people, and so I think just the continued changing policies to our schools, to meet the needs of our students is really necessary. I would like to, continue to work on legislation surrounding this. I think that there's more that we could do around fentanyl. I personally am trying to think about ways we can get fentanyl strips more accessible to everyone, including young people. So I would look forward to maybe continued conversations, but just thank you for this bill, and I'm very much in support of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Padilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to say thank you to everyone up there. This one hits home for me, especially 2020, middle of the pandemic. I'll never forget, late at night, my second oldest, who was a senior at Hastings High School, came running into our bedroom, flipped on the lights, bawling. His best friend, Tyler Kavitz, had just OD'd and died. So, commend you on all the work, and I'll support it 100%.
Thank you. Representative Reed?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Acomb, for bringing this forward. Thanks to Dr. Kelly Morrison for bringing it forward. I believe I spoke with Colleen Rane on the phone last year. I don't know if you remember that, but I heard your story. I'm very sorry about your loss. I fully support this. I think my only question would be, why haven't we done this yet? There's an urgency here. And even if this, having Narcan in the schools saves one life, it's totally worth it. So I guess I would ask everyone to address this with the urgency it demands. And once again, thank you so much for bringing this forward, and thank you for championing this. Moms change the world, and you are changing things for the better. Thank you so much.
Thank you. With that, members, I think I'll go to final comments since we have one more bill. We're going to be running a few minutes late, but Representative Acomb.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the discussion today. And I just think that the discussion points to how this really touches all of us in one way or another. We all know someone close to us who has struggled with this issue. And so I thank you for your support, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you. With that, we'll move House File 2398 to be laid over for possible inclusion in the education finance bill.